Okay, at the beginning of the episode, it's a flashback. It's on Penny's boat, and Jack is talking to Kate, who has Aaron. He's like, we're going to have to lie to the outside world to protect the people that we left behind. We have to convince the others, meaning like Sayid and Hurley and whoever else, that, we're going to have to lie about this. Are you with me? And she says, I have always been with you. Bow, chicka, bow, bow. Okay, in the real world, which is 3 years later, remember Kate went to go visit Sun in her hotel room. She's borrowed clothes from Sun and decided to go do something. We don't know what it is, but she's going to leave Aaron in Sun's care. Sun gets a package, and in that package is a file. There were photos of Ben and Jack together, and some kind of paperwork, and a box of chocolates, and underneath the chocolates was a gun. Scary Sun has a gun, and Kate's son. Back on the island, Charlotte was going to die. They're trying to resuscitate her. Sawyer was going all crazy because he's like, Faraday knew that this was going to happen and whatever, and why don't you ask him? He always has the damn answers. And Juliet's, Sawyer, I'm going to have to ask you to use your inside voice and back the fuck up. Juliet asks Faraday, she's like, you knew this was going to happen? He's like, well, I maybe. She's like, well, what's going on with her? He says, it's like a side effect from doing the time traveling, or the jumping through time, kind of like jet lag. And she's like, jet lag doesn't make you hemorrhage out the nose, last time I checked. But he's like, I don't know. And she says, well, how come it's not happening to the rest of us? He's like, I don't know. So, back in the real world, you find out that Kate, the reason that she left Sun's hotel room was that she decided to go meet the lawyer that's trying to take Aaron away from her. And she tells him, okay, look, I'll give you the blood sample that you want from me and Aaron on one condition. I want to know who your client is. I want to know who's doing this to me. And the lawyer's like, I see. My client's going to say no. He's like, you're going to lose the boy, okay? We're going to take custody of him. Just go and cry. I don't know what you need to do. Back on the island, they're still trying to resuscitate Charlotte. If I were Juliet, I would have taken a rock and bashed her in the head and put her out of her misery. Locke tells Sawyer, okay, the reason that this is all happening, time shifting and whatever and all sort of stuff, is because, our people left the island. I'm going to leave the island to go get them to come back. Don't you want Kate to come back? Aren't you in love with her? Aren't your bad boy loins burning for her? He's like, okay, so what do we do? He's like, we got to go to the orchid. He's like, okay, let's go to the greenhouse and pick some flowers, y'all. Charlotte revives. Yeah. She's like looking at Daniel. She's like, who are you? See, I knew she didn't like him. He's like, I'm Daniel. She's like, oh, okay, well, get me up off the ground. Back in the real world, Jack is examining Sayid, and he's talking to him saying, okay, you're fine, you're going to be okay, it's blah, 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 blah. And another doctor takes him out into the hallway and is like, Dr. Shepard, you're not supposed to be here because you're a drug addict. Jack's like, my cell phone's ringing. I'm going to have to get that. So, talk to you later. Who's calling Jack? It's Hurley. He's in the LA lockup. And he's like, dude. Hurley's like, okay, well, Ben can't get me in here. That's all going to be great. Dude. Okay. So, and then he hangs up. Jack's like, what the hell? Ben shows up and he's like, what's going on? I'm sorry, I should do Ben like this. Because his eyes are just so damn big. Back in the room where Sayid was, he's all laying there like, I don't know, like thinking about Shannon or something, I don't know. In walks a guy and he's like, it's time for your medication. And Sayid's like, I didn't order any medication. The guy's actually trying to get Sayid. So he turns around with like a tranquilizer gun and tries to shoot Sayid. Sayid is much too fast for him and wrestles the gun out of his hand, puts him in a stranglehold and says, who are you working for? And he says, okay, there's if you let me breathe, there's an address in my pocket. Sayid's like, okay, very good. He picks up the tranquilizer gun and shoots the guy. Then he takes the address out of his pocket. Ben and Jack walk in and they're like, okay, Sayid, we know that you're crazy and everything, but what's going on with this? Sayid said, this man was after me, and he said that the person he reports to is at this address, and it's 42 Panoramic Crest. And Jack's like, that's Kate's address. Hold on. Jack calls Kate. He's like, where the hell are you? And she's like, none of your business. Kate is actually parked outside the lawyer's office because she wants to try and follow him because the lawyer said that he was going to go meet with his client. Jack's like, I'm worried about you and I want to come and see you and whatever. And she's like, okay, fine, I'm downtown, whatever. Ben and Sayid decide to go, that they're going to go get Hurley out of jail because Sayid doesn't want to let Ben alone with Hurley because he's afraid he's going to mess him up or whatever. Anyways, Ben tells everyone, okay, we have to meet back at the marina, slip number 23. Where have we heard 23 before? Oh, and Kate's address was 42 Panoramic Crest Lane, 4223. Back on the island, Sawyer and Locke are talking about like what Locke will say to Kate to make her want to come back to the island. Charlotte's like telling Faraday, "I'm fine, just leave me alone. You're goofy and you're ugh." And Miles is starting to get a nosebleed, but he's like, "Oh crap." Off in the distance they see a beam of light. We all know that that beam of light is coming from the hatch in season 1, the night that Boone died, and Locke was throwing himself on top of the hatch, and he's like, "Why are you doing this to me? Why? And that beam of light comes up out of the hatch window. Locke's like, "Okay, we're going to have to go over there." And Sawyer's like, "Why? What the hell is that?" Just trust me, James. We're going to go over this way, okay? Okay. They started to follow Locke, and then they hear screaming, and Sawyer's like, "I got this one." Remember, he's got the gun, right? He's going to go hunt him down some screaming, because it was a girl screaming, some screaming bitch and shoot her or something. That was also the night that Claire gave birth to Aaron. So he's like watching Claire give birth to Aaron and Kate helping him. He was all like, oh my God. And then, flash, they jump through time again. And Locke comes up and he's all, "James, did you see something out here?" He's all, "It was nothing." I hate Sawyer. I hate him. Back in the real world, Jack meets Kate at her car. And he's like, "What are you doing here?" And she tells him, "Okay, there's someone that's trying to take Aaron away from me, and he wants the, blood sample, and blah, 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 blah. It's all a big mess." He's like, I want to help. And the lawyer's going to, like, take off because he gets in his car and he's going to go drive. And Kate's like, "Get in or not. I'm going. I have to do this." So they drive off. Okay, back on the island. Remember, they jumped in time. They walk back to where they think their camp is, and the camp's there this time. But it's like old. It's been, like, deserted. It's all, like, run down. The Zodiac boat that they thought that they had at the camp was gone. But there's this new, like, is it an outrigger? It's another boat. Okay, suffice it to say. And Locke's like, "Let's get out in the water. We'll paddle out." They paddle out, and all of a sudden there's this other boat behind them starting to shoot at them. And Juliet's trying to shoot back at them and whatever. Poof! Time flash. Then they're sitting in the middle of the ocean in the middle of a storm. This is back in the real world now. Kate and Jack follow the lawyer to some motel or whatever, and they find out that the client is actually Claire's mom, or they think it is anyways. Jack asks Kate, like, "Let me go in there and talk to her." And then finally he does go in there and he asks her, "We're trying to do whatever we can for Aaron." She's like, "Who's Aaron?" We go back into the car and he's like, she doesn't know. She's suing Oceanic for the fact that her daughter died and whatever. She doesn't know anything about Aaron. She's like, "Well, then whose lawyer is it?" Ben and Saeed pull into this parking garage or whatever, and the lawyer walks out and says, "Hurley's going to be a free man by tomorrow because of blah, 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 some information, proving that he was innocent." And Saeed's like, "Who is that?" And he's like, "My lawyer." So it was Ben's lawyer. Are we surprised? Not really. Back on the island, or technically on the ocean, the people on the boat that were caught in the storm row back to shore. Juliet was, like, talking to Sawyer about, like, "Oh, do you miss Kate?" And he notices that her nose is bleeding, and she's like, "Don't alarm the others just yet." Well, they realize that they're on this beach, and there's, like, wreckage. Sawyer goes and kicks over, like, I don't know if it was, like, a gas can or some kind of something, and it had something French written on it. And he says, "Anybody speak French?" Now, the moment that happened, did everyone go, this is where Danielle and her crew wrecked? Meanwhile, out on the ocean, there's this raft of French people all saying that, like, "Oh, they see someone. What's going on? What's over there?" Whatever. And they see this body floating on, like, some wreckage or something. And they paddle over there, and they pull him in the boat, and it's Jin. Back in the real world, Jack had told Kate that they had to go to the marina to call Sun to bring Aaron. They all need to get together and be someplace safe. They're all there, Saeed, Ben, Kate, and Jack. She's like, "What are you doing? Oh my God, what's going on?" and whatever. And Kate figures out that Ben is the one that's got the lawyer after her. And Jack's like, "No, that's impossible. It's just, no." And Ben's like, "Yes, it was me." Meanwhile, Sun hasn't got out of her car yet. And she looks back and she's like, "Oh, poor little baby Aaron," and whatever. But she sees that Ben is out over there. And so she gets her gun and she gets out of the car. But back on the island, the French people are trying to revive Jin. It's daylight now. He can speak a little English, and this French woman's like, "Oh, you speak a little English, okay." She's like, "What's your name?" He's all, "Jin." "Hello, I'm Danielle Rousseau." And I knew it was Rousseau because before she asked Jin, like, what his name was, she, like, takes off her coat, and she was, like, pregnant. I mean, like, 18,000 months pregnant. That's how the episode ends. And if you're lost, so am I.